Welcome to Behind the Citgo, where we pull back the curtain on the unseen truth of addiction recovery and talk about things most people never get a chance to see. I'm your host, Josh Torbich. Each week, we're sitting down with people who lived it, led it, and are still learning from it today. This isn't polished, it's real, it's raw, and it's noted in the faith and hope because we do recover. So whether you're in recovery, walking alongside someone who is, or just trying to understand what healing really looks like, you came to the right place. Let's dig in. What's up, everyone? Welcome back. Another episode Behind the Citgo. Raymond Wood in the house.
Glad to be here, brother. Glad to be here.
I always talk to people, and this is what I say about you because this is what it means to me. You used to show up when I was in Ash, in between a couple cornfields. All I had was dreams.
Amen.
And you would show up, and I'd be like, look at this school we can get. Look at always pitching my
The
next
blueprint.
dream to you, the blueprint. And you know what you say? Brother, keep living like Joseph.
That's right.
You say, keep having dreams. You were always encouraging
Yes.
me, man, to keep dreaming. And while you continue to build and grow something that's really important to our community, which is what we're getting into today, you're the director of the DWI Drug Court Program, working with Superior Court Judge Dispro and the rest of your team there. You were building that. I was working over here building that. You've always been an advocate for our work. So before we get started, I want to say thank you for that.
I appreciate that.
So today we're talking about the work of our Brunswick County DWI Drug Court. Raymond Wood here, the director of it. We work closely with what they do today. We're a fan of that work. And I'll tell you what, before we launch into the conversation, I'm a huge fan of judicial involvement when it comes into the realm of recovery. I see it as a great parallel to being tied to a post, something that leans you in the right direction to make sure when those times get tough going through recovery like they always do, you got one more reason to stay. So I joke, okay? Here's the joke.
That's a joke.
I go into the church and I see all of our folks up there, and all the well-hearted church folks are praying for them to be set free. You know, Lord, they'll reach our hands out over our Rose House
Lord,
ladies.
set 'em free.
Look, and they'll be like, Lord, set them free. Lord, loose them. And sometimes I know what's going on with them, and they're on the fence, and I'm on the back row, and I'm going, Lord, keep them tied down.
Keep them right where they're at for a while.
Lord, don't let that ankle monitor fall off of them.
Hey.
So that is my experience. But in a quick phrase, why don't you tell the folks about the work of Brunswick County Drug Court? Y'all been around for years now.
Yes.
Could you open up with that?
Yeah, Brunswick County Treatment Court's been around since 2008, started by Judge Ola M. Lewis. The program is a research-based, evidence-based program that helps individuals who are high risk, high need. I have to clarify that some individuals don't meet the criteria for our courts. We try to take, I don't want to like to use the term worst of the worst, but the individuals who have some of the more serious crimes and will be high risk to our community, we target those individuals to try to use a program of evidence-based treatment, what we call sanctions and incentives, to guide their behavior into recovery. And I always have a statement that I can't make anyone recover, and I can't make anyone choose to recover. What I can do and what we do is provide tools and opportunities in lieu of them being in jail to get access to treatment. Some of them have never had access, or get them back on track with treatment so that they can live a life of recovery if they choose to, which that is a choice that belongs to them. But we provide them all the tools and the direction to do so, but it's their choice to do so.
If you want recovery, here's the road that we've created.
Yes.
You can follow that thing right down. That's cool.
Yes.
There's a thing, and this is kind of where I get really into it, because this is really what the judicial system's arm of compassion looks like. For people who are struggling with the illness of addiction.
Yes.
Would you say that?
Yeah, we're the off-ramp.
Yeah.
You know, when I was thinking about, some of the questions you may ask, we provide that off-ramp to a cyclical challenge that someone may have with addiction of going in and out of the jail. We have so many people who just do misdemeanor crimes, and they're just continue going throughout the jail till it piles up to where they're getting close to felonies. So what we try to do, and again, our program doesn't expunge the sentence. What we offer is something in lieu of them serving the time. And people need to understand that. So if I was a person who had a 2.5-year sentence or, 3-year sentence, opposed to me going to jail for that sentence, I now have that 18 to 24 months to access the community and access treatment in lieu of serving that sentence.
It's not a get out of jail free.
It's not a get out of jail free, and that sentence can be revoked, and they can go back and serve their time if they did not comply with the terms and conditions of the program. So what we do is say, do you want to continue in your cycle, or are you ready to get off the highway and get off the off-ramp and find yourself in a place where you can get the treatment and the recovery path that you need?
Yeah, we're going to try to give you a fair shake to get
Fair
well.
shake to get
That's
well.
See, that's awesome. I've seen this. This is something that I'm most proud of, and the joke about it in the beginning was that this is the intervention that oftentimes become their turning point. The judicial involvement. When you say, well, I don't want to say the worst of the worst, but it truly is. It's people who've traveled the road far enough to get stuck in it, and that's really what we're describing. It's at the felony court level. So these aren't people who just got caught speeding, going 15 over. These are folks who oftentimes, because of their addiction, have found themselves in serious legal trouble.
Yes.
That carries serious legal consequences. But you've seen this be the perfect catalyst for change, yes?
Yes. So when we say worst of the worst, I mean in terms of behavior and the worst face of addiction.
Yes.
How about that?
Yep.
I'm not saying you're putting that label on people. Yes. So when I say the worst of the worst, it means the ugliest part of addiction has affected that individual's life. And one thing about the judicial system is confinement, right? And sometimes confinement can encourage the thought process of change. And we know that people go through different levels of change and the way they think of the cycle of change. But when somebody's sitting still and they have limited options, it usually will spark the mindset of change. So that's where when they're confined, a lot of people come to Jesus, we call it, but a lot of times that light in that darkness and someone going over and talking to them about an assessment about options and opportunities for them, but yes, usually that is a spot that it could encourage change, but we also know some people become very conditioned to that lifestyle, and they're still not ready to change. Even if you offer the olive branch, sometimes the olive branch is not always accepted. But in most cases, individuals will kind of begin to change their mind, think of better ways that I don't want to do. Because when I'm sitting down with them in front of them, man, get me out of here. I'm ready to change. I don't want to go back to that lifestyle. As soon as they get out of jail, they're back. Yeah. Because we know it's a brain rewiring that you're not going to fix in just that moment, because your body, physiological body's affected by the substances. You've just detoxed, you're going to go back out, and you still have this. So you need more reinforcement than just that moment. But it is a place that people can think, because 9 times out of 10, if you're in full-blown addiction and the high-risk, high-needs individuals that we have, they're not slowing down to think. They're only trying to fix what they're feeling at that moment.
Yeah, we know that all too well.
Yeah. So it's an opportunity for change.
Yep, it is. Yeah, and when we watch folks who get to explore the avenues of recovery who are traveling through the drug treatment courts program, you really get to hone in on the folks who are ready for that change. You really get to see them taking it seriously, doing what's asked of. And I think that you guys, especially your team, is professional. They're all high class, man. I'm so proud of each one of them. I hated to see Glenda go across the county line. I was like,
hey, we're spreading the love. Just like you moved up to a different county to provide services.
Right. See, that's good. But secretively,
right.
Be like, come back, Glenda. All right. So, but when I think about this, all of your staff, high class, your team is phenomenal. Okay. The way that they work with folks who are traveling through the addiction world. You also got a very special judge. Now,
very special.
I'm going to go backtrack a little bit. Judge Ola was special to both of us.
That's right.
You were a lot more of her confidant than I was, but she gave me my first seat at the table back in the day. She would make sure that we were included in these talks before we were really even doing anything. I remember her inviting me to these probation leadership chats that we would have. She used to call us Green Acres. She'd say, I'm going to send you out to Green Acres. And I was always so appreciative of her. It takes someone like her. She's special. And she did such a phenomenal job leading the drug court work. And one of the things that I remember most, she was funny, man. She just had that personality. I was in there one day, and she said, she pulled up, there was a lady who was somewhere where she wasn't supposed to be, and she was on the monitor. They had that ankle monitor on, and know, they weren't supposed to be in contact with another person who was involved in the treatment court. And that day I was sitting there, she got the laptop from the PO.
And
she said, why is your little dot
right next
on top of this?
Yeah, I remember that.
That was her personality, though. She just had a way of being really, she was engaging, but so fair, through it. Yes. Judge Disbro is phenomenal.
Yes.
I couldn't think of anyone else who could have filled
better
those
person.
Huge shoes.
Yes.
And the judge plays a huge role in making this thing successful. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we are part of organization called All Rise, who used to be called NADCP, which did all the research and provided all the best practice standards. And one of the best practice standards is the interaction of the judge with the participant of the court. That colloquy that they have back and forth really determines the motivation that they will have, and a lot of times the success that they'll have in the program, along with the treatment and other things that they do. You have to have the person with the right heart. Because you could have all the information and the knowledge about addiction, but if you don't have the heart for the population and have the understanding of what addiction and how it impacts lives, you can't affect it. You can do it, but it won't be effective, because that empathy, and we'll get to that, is like the secret sauce, right? That's the thing that draws the person in, because trust has to be built. And I know we're going to talk about the judicial system, but many people have a lot of disdain for the judicial system. Everybody's out to get me. My lawyer never helped me. I really didn't do the crime. Now I'm in front of this judge, and all he really wants to do is send me to jail. But he's extending the olive branch as much as he can. He's showing mercy. He's showing grace. He's showing love. And that's what Judge Disbro does. He's well-trained. He's very astute in understanding addiction and all the ways that it impacts people's life. And he has a way, just like Judge, unique to Judge Lewis, in his own way of pulling someone in and letting them know, number one, we love you, we care about you, but more importantly, we're here to help you. We're not here to re-offend you. We do have rules in our program, and we want you to follow those rules. They're proven to provide your success, but more importantly, we want you to understand this is part of a family and you're part of our community. He has a unique way of doing that, and nobody does it like he does it, and we're so proud to have him as our judge.
It is a special gift to be able to
It's a gift.
blend it. Yeah,
yes, it's a gift.
Because I don't think any judge couldn't do that work and be effective in it.
No.
Yeah.
I honestly believe that.
Yeah, it's hard. That's definitely, and it's unique to a lot of other folks who hold that role across when you're interacting with a court like this. It's not like other courts in that same shape.
Yes.
So you think of the personal stories. You guys have seen hundreds, right? You guys have seen hundreds of participants that you've been up with, thousands?
I would probably say we're close to 1,000.
Okay.
I've been doing it since 2015.
I was wondering.
And it started 2000, so I would say we're probably in the thousands.
Yeah, so you guys have supported thousands of people traveling through the drug treatment courts programs. I'm sure that you've pulled out some kind of stories. Not throw anybody out there on live stream, but can you help us read in to like an experience that you've watched one of the folks have when they've traveled through where it truly did become their catalyst? Have you seen something like that before?
Again, we see mothers struggling to get their children back. We see fathers struggling to stay, in fidelity with their wives. We see individuals who've harmed their family. It's a litany of individuals, but it's still the same impact, which is substance or mental health. And when those two are combined, sometimes co-occurring disorders, it takes a little bit longer. All the stories are unique to their family, but they have some of the same thread, for lack of a better term. And it's really about overcoming what has spiritually suppressed you and being able to break in freedom. And that's one of the things that we were talking about. And that means removing the resistance that was holding you down. This morning I was reading about the 10 lepers, just to put a little scripture on it. And only the one came back and it said the faith made him whole. So there are some that reach that point where they see it very clearly, and they get a hold of it very clearly. And one of the things we talked about is that motivation to change. That motivation. So early on, sometimes we could see it. Sometimes we see somebody says they're never going to make it, and then they are one of our strongest graduates. And then we say they're going to be the best. They're going to go right through this program, and they don't, and they fail at the end. So it's a hodgepodge, but of results. But usually, if they will follow all the things that we provide for them, and they internally have the readiness to change, we always have successful graduates. So we take very serious thought and care into measuring that motivation and really seeing how well treatment is taken to that individual, how well they're enjoying, and their mindset about recovery. How do you look at recovery? How do you look at your community? And can that make you successful? So we have, there's so many stories, man. It's hard to just pick one. But for me personally, it's always mothers, because they're the birth of the nation. I mean, they bring forth life, right? With the help of us, right? But seeing mothers struggle and mothers turn it around with children has always been something that's dear to my heart. And we've had several mothers kind of more recently that have graduated and been able to do that.
The last one I was at was, I forget what the speaker called them, the Fab Five.
Yes,
right?
we had
Because
our
it
last
was
graduation was 5 women.
Yeah,
and
5.
remember, that kind of touched me in a way because, again, women who are able to overcome that because, again, they're the life of the family. And when we can provide services and resources to them that they can get back in that whole spot, spiritually, mentally, and physically, it means a lot to us.
Yeah, it was beautiful. One of them had their little daughter, maybe 5,
Exactly.
6-year-old, walk.
Exactly.
They were all in their graduation
right.
gowns for
That's right.
the big achievement.
Yes.
They walked down, that little girl was so
Yeah.
proud.
So your
standing
children
up front.
seeing you overcome
Yep.
is a powerful thing.
That is.
Yeah.
When I was talking to some of them after the graduation that I recently got to go to, they were really describing one of the ways that they were able to become motivated for recovery. You're tapping into this motivation and goals thing, the routine that it offered,
Yes.
the direction and the routine. And drug court does that really effectively. The routine that you guys offered, it's very intentional. And where does that come from?
Yeah, that comes from those best practice standards. And then we, myself and Judge, try to get the right staff that also accompanies that. But those best practice standards are proven to provide the right accountability of probation, surveillance officer, treatment modalities, all those things, sanctions and incentives to work together to put that person in the best position. And when they're used appropriately, and that's why you have to have the right judge, and we have the right judge, and we have the right treatment providers, the right team, when they're used appropriately, it guides that person. Because sometimes we may have to send someone away on a 90-day CRV. People's like, well, you're re-traumatizing them. You're sending them back to jail. Sometimes those things have to happen in order to get the wake-up call, to get the understanding that you're not doing what we're asking you to do. 90 days is still better than 3 years, and we just need you to get a readjustment in your attitude and your thought process and bring you back in. So, we use a variety of accountabilities to keep that person on track. But we're here to provide support is the biggest thing that we provide, which is the treatment. That's the whole purpose. We're a treatment court, which we're also what we call accountability courts, right? So that's what a term that has changed over the years that most people who start courts now call them accountability courts. Wow. And that's a big part of what we do. We're going to offer you all these things, but we're going to hold you accountable to the program. And that's something that we take very seriously, that if you're supposed to be somewhere, if you're supposed to drug screen, if you're supposed to come to court, we're going to hold you accountable to those things. So all those things in combination, the best practice standards, having the right staff, the right judge, all those things makes things run a whole lot smoother and gives the individual the opportunity to have the best success.
It is a balancing act between the accountability piece of it. A lot of, and I'll just share this Josh 101, this personal perspective, but I think that a lot of what's happened in the recovery-based channels that we operate in is that we've lost accountability because we've overshot the empathy mark. And that does, it happens a lot of times.
That's real.
And you know, when we think about it, we have groups for things like this for families. It's called codependency. You know, and people do have to every day interact with the world in a way that they're accountable for the choices that they make. And without that, you would say that person's not free. They're disillusioned. And I think that this is one of the strengths of the judicial system whenever it created a court like this, and that when you guys get to interact with folks, your team's responsibility is balancing their choices, life interacting with those choices so that they see that there's real weight behind them, but then allowing them an avenue for change. And that's one of the harder things, would you say, that you guys deal with,
absolutely.
is balancing accountability and
That
compassion?
is. And every person is motivated differently. And that's the skill that comes into the coordinator's job, the judge's job, and my job, is trying to see what motivates them and which sanctions to use and when. And our whole treatment team is part of that. I have a saying, a person's decisions are based on the boundaries they face. And a boundary means I've hit something that's changing the way that I have to go. And some people fight that change, run from that change. They do a lot of different things. We have to be able to stand with them in their grappling in that decision process and make sure that we're trying to guide them to the right place. So again, there's skill in that. There's training. We go through a lot of training.
One of the recent videos that I got a chance to do for the ministry, and I'll put her out there because she's on a video. Her name's Ellis, but her parents.
I just met her.
You did? Yeah. Your parents, she's a great person. She works over at the Rose House now. Phenomenal story. But she's highlighted in one of our videos, and her mom and her grandmother are also in the video sharing their perspectives of her recovery process. And one of the the comments that have always stuck out to me, and I think that this is a shared sentiment with a lot of people who their families are desperate, don't know what to do. They're stuck in that spot of like, I love this person a lot. I can't do anything with them.
Right.
I can't change. She said, I'm so grateful that she did something that got caught her up in charges enough that we couldn't rush down there to bail her out quickly. That she had to go through a process like the drug treatment course.
Yeah, what happens a lot in families is that they run out of resources, right?
Exactly, yes.
And ultimately, I have to say, not for job security, but I wish people didn't have to go through the judicial system to get help.
Right.
However, it is there to get help.
Yeah.
And what happens is that families run out of resources, they run out of the ability, and sometimes they overprotect and enable so much that it's hard sometimes to untangle it. But also you can see that they get just discouraged as they go through, but then they look at it in hindsight like, well, I'm glad they got locked up. But then they worry about them. I get a lot of calls from the mothers and from the fathers really putting a lot of pressure on us once we get them in the program, that the program's too hard, they can't do that. And so it's always finding that balance. But families have to know I've reached the extent of what I can do. And the earlier you get resources, broader resources that we're building in the community, I know you got a big family day coming up, that to where they understand there's help all over this community, and how can I use these resources for families who are not involved in the judicial system early on to get them the help they need. But, it's a multifaceted diamond, you know that. So as a family member, somebody could talk to you, somebody could have a peer support. All these people involved in that person's life can help shape their recovery. And a lot of different circumstances. We both can look back at certain things that shifted us, right? A person that may not, we may look at now that may look at as insignificant, but that person said something to us to change the thought process that may not have even been part of the recovery community. It could have been a pastor, could have been anybody that shifted that. So everybody's involved in that process for somebody's recovery, and everybody's perspective should be valued in how they look at it. But at the end of the day, it's that person that chooses to make that change. It has to be internal. I have so many people to say, I'm doing this for my daughter when I do personal counseling, right? I'm doing this for my mom. I said, that may get you on the road, but it won't maintain
That's
you.
good.
It won't maintain you. You're going to have to want it
It's
for
not
yourself.
big enough to
It's
keep
not
you
big
there.
enough to keep you there.
Wow.
It won't do it.
Because we do hear that a lot,
Yes.
right? we hear it, I got to do it this time for my kids.
Yes.
I got to do it this time
Yes.
for that. And it's like, okay, that's great momentum to
Yes.
get you started.
It's motivation.
Yeah, but you got to figure out what's going to keep you on it.
Yes.
And that's only you.
Yes.
Kind of swearing by it. Would you say
Yes.
that's fair? Like,
That's what they use as that point at that time
Yeah.
for something to grab onto.
Yep.
They're giving them motivation to start the process. But then when they start hitting the healing walls and the struggles
yep.
and all the changes they have to make, then it starts moving a little bit. Like I said, you're going to have to get to that place where you can get where it's for you, because that determines your value. That determines your worth. And when you can do that, that's when everything, to me, can change for you, when you understand your value and worth.
When it's for you, it's sustainable.
It
Is
is.
that fair?
Yeah.
Because drug court's 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's ironic. Our program's 2.5 years too, right? Drug court's 2.5 years.
Well, yes, we've changed the model. It used to, most of DWI court was the shortest at roughly 12 months.
Okay.
That could run into 15. NADCP/All Rise is now saying a person can stay as long as they need to.
Okay.
As long as they need the support and we need to get them to where they need to go, we allow them to. So we've had, probably our longest was close to 3 years.
Okay.
But most people, 18 to 24 months is usually the time
Yeah,
frame.
see, it's ironic because our programs, we're in a similar school of thought. Like, even with the 2.5 years that we've established to provide care for people, we're finding that, man, we can even get them further if we
Yes.
set up a new layer of
Yes.
results
Yes.
and keep them a little bit
Yes.
longer for that opportunity. But when it's great to say, I know you see this, all right? You're going to laugh when I say it, but they do well for the 2 years that they're a part of the program, and they're really intuitively involved in all of the small mechanisms of it. They're delivering on where they're supposed to be, what they're supposed to be doing, changing their people, places, and things, all of those things that you would say would lead to a successful place. And then they finish, they get their certificate, and it's like, I'm going to take a break from doing all of those things that made me really a better person. Like, the first thing they want to do is stop doing
Yeah.
all those things to
Yeah.
take a break
Yeah.
from it. How do you reconcile those two
Man.
with people?
One of the things I love when I was doing counseling is seeing that person back a second time. It's like we already know, right?
How'd that work
They're
out for
potentially
you?
going to struggle.
Yeah.
Well, how'd that work out for you?
Yeah.
The same things that made you successful, you determined that you have to peel those back. That didn't work out for you.
Yeah.
So getting that mindset to shift to recovery, not just I'm able to abstain from the drug or the substance or the symptoms for a period of time. And that's where the eternal healing is important. That's why we have to have faith-based systems and programs out there where the person has the exposure to healing themselves of all the struggles and changes that they may have been that affected them in the substance use. So for me, that's why I try to navigate once I get that person back in front of me. Number one, making it clear, these are the things that are going to help you. Jessica and I were just talking out there about community meetings. If I have an individual in the court that has never attended a community meeting and they're graduating, they're at high risk in my mind. High risk, because once we're done, you have nothing to sustain you longer term. You have to have a sense of community.
Yes, you do.
And you have to have people who support you while you're continuing in your journey. So that mindset is kind of like, I see this as just a program, and that's where we got to change that mentality. And we change that by extending things out. We both know it takes a year minimum, just a 1 year minimum to get the physical effects.
Yep.
Depending, because again, we're dealing with high risk, high needs. So we're talking about the significant heroin users, meth users, co-occurring disorder.
That's an unpopular topic, by the way, that people don't want it to take a year, do they?
Oh, well, that's going to take that, and it's still
Yeah.
saving you money
Yeah.
through our program as opposed to having them sitting
Yeah.
in jail.
Yeah.
But it's going to take a year. And most people don't want to hear that, because as soon as they start feeling better, I am better.
Yep.
That's not how it works. It's going to take your body some time to adjust. Now we got to start the thought process. Now we got to deal with how you're thinking. And that's some of the modalities we use to challenge the thought process, CBT, cognitive behavior theory, because they've had long-term wrong thinking, right? So we have to confront that thinking, change that thinking, and then try to get them on the path of making better decisions longer term. So, there's a lot of things that come into play with that.
Yeah, when I think about, too, when I checked into the program in BCRC, I had charge it. So let's see, what did I had 2 DWIs.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have you though.
Mm-hmm.
See, I had 2 DWIs pending against me, and I had like an assault with an intent to cause serious
Mm-hmm.
harm or something,
Mm-hmm.
something
Mm-hmm.
like that. I got into a fight when I was drinking with a friend. But so I had those charges, and I was already on probation, and I had a court date pending.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember why this is true. I don't know. Everyone in rehab, they love cops.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they were all watching cops. I was like
Well,
traumatized.
yeah, I don't want to see that.
Every time I would see someone on the TV show, I come in the living room. The
Mhm.
boys be watching cops,
Nah.
and I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't watch another person do
Mhm.
something stupid, get in jail. But I do remember, like, every time there was a knock at the door,
Mm-hmm.
going like this little shriek in me
Yeah.
was like, oh man, my
Yeah.
attorney didn't get it
Mhm.
continued, you know,
Mhm.
type of thing. Like they were here to get me,
Mhm.
you know, type of thing, pick me up. I know that there's maybe like a mixed bag that people have. That was really helpful for me
Mm-hmm.
to have that sense. And I'm not saying, you know, there's not some kind of negative psychological
Mhm.
effects from it, but looking back on
Yeah,
it,
I understand.
okay, from my experience, it was good that I
Mhm.
had that constant kind of fear
Right.
reminder
Mm-hmm.
of like, you can't go out there
Right.
and get yourself into
Yeah.
that mess again. Where do you see it for the good and the bad,
Yeah.
the psychological effects that it has?
Yeah,
on
the
people?
psychological people use a lot of different things to keep them from going back to that substance.
Yeah.
Some are healthy, some are unhealthy. That's why the healing process, I'm going to keep circling back to it, the healing process has to happen because you could hold on to those unhealthy thoughts like that and it can return you right back to use at some point in time. If you don't deal with those things and you don't allow those things to be healed on the inside of you, somebody could hit the door wrong and it shake you so bad, or somebody do something like that and it triggers something on the inside of you through trauma that just like, I have feelings flooding me that I can't control, then you can potentially return to use. So I like talking through this because each person's situation is unique.
Yeah, very different.
And it's very different. So a lot of times we always look for that thing that's going to chain us to what we're trying to do. And it doesn't always have to be bad. We're really in the I wouldn't call it business, in the recovery of replacing bad behaviors with good behaviors, bad thoughts with good thoughts, good, you know, all of those things. So that's why it takes that year just to do some basic things. Then the second year, now we're dealing with some healings, wrong thoughts, behaviors, and actions. And then even after a 2-year span, you still have to have the recovery coaches. You still have to have the sponsor. You still have to have the spiritual aspect. All those things have to come into play. And I think, like, again, most people think this is a program I just have to complete. This is not a lifestyle that I have to live. And the river in between there, the riverbanks in between, people swim on both sides. So my goal is always, when I sit in front of somebody, this is a lifestyle change.
Wow.
You have to change the way you live your life and the way that you think. And unless you're willing to do that, you're always going to be at some level of risk of returning to what you did. And
It'll bury
nobody
you.
wants that for you.
It'll bury you.
It will bury
like
you.
the negative psychological
Yes.
effects, but there's nothing better.
Who wants to live scared?
Who wants to live that
I don't
way
want to live
forever?
scared. I never want this thing glooming over. And that's the freedom
Yep.
that we started with. It's free from a restraint. It's free from something hanging over me that I got to look back on. And even if there's a criminal history, you can be free from that, right? You can get to the mindset
You're
like, that's
absolutely
behind me.
You're absolutely right.
You know, and that's your freedom, you know.
We have 2 people on our leadership team who are felons.
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
Yeah.
it's not a...
See, that word doesn't scare me anymore.
That's what I'm
you know?
saying.
You
And
know?
a lot of times, like, you would say, though, like, in their past experiences, people would say, or even their families would say, oh, they're a felon.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no way that they can get themselves...
They're a
That's
victim.
not true.
Yeah, they're
I'm
gonna.
surrounded by wildly
Mhm.
successful pillars of their
Yes.
community people
Yes.
who are felons
Yes.
in the past.
Yes.
Would you say there's nothing that helps to subdue and heal trauma than positive actions reinforced by positive outcomes?
Mhm.
And when you get somebody who's caught up in that flow of my positive actions today have created positive outcomes for tomorrow, trauma naturally starts to heal.
It does.
I used to get, remember my brown van I used to drive back in the day, the topsy-turvy van?
Yeah.
I used to drive around. I used to get into that van, and it was a pattern I had developed out of fear of getting in trouble.
Yeah.
I would jump into any time I would hop in a vehicle, I would check the back seat. Partially to make sure there was nobody waiting back there to get me, because I was doing all kinds of wrong to people, right? And when you're robbing, stealing, doing the stuff I was doing, someone might be waiting back there for you. But I was a year sober, and I was still checking the back seat. Before any time, it was like it was wired into me. I'd look in the back seat, make sure there wasn't an orange cap from a syringe laying out on a seat, an empty Aristocrat bottle. Like, I used to drink that nasty, cheap vodka back in the day. But, okay, I didn't even realize I was healing from it. I didn't try to heal from it. I just lived life differently. One day, true story, I hopped in the van, got a mile down Ash Little River Road, and realized I didn't check the back. Like, it wasn't me paying attention to trying to fix that part of me that was really in fear of that negative side effect of my life that I was conditioned to pay attention to. It was positive behaviors with positive outcomes created a change. And it healed the trauma. That's what we're talking about.
That's part of the healing process, when you no longer see yourself as you were. That's the freedom of the new creation.
This guy doesn't have to check the back seat.
He's gone.
Wait, this person ain't got to worry about what's sitting in the seat. And that's kind of what we're trying to create for people. See, we're getting excited. I'm getting excited.
Yeah, bro.
But
that's
what
freedom.
we're
That's
doing.
real freedom.
We're doing that for people. Programs like these are giving them direct, like, you're putting them in the channel to go through those processes enough to where they get to taste from the other side of it. And I believe this, though. I see it happen with people all the time. Once they get to the place that they're experiencing the positive effects of it, you've found a life that they won't trade for. They won't trade that life for anything. Do you see that too? You have a group in drug court. They're your ambassadors. Is that what you call them? Drug court ambassadors?
The alumni.
The Alumni Association, right? I know some of the folks on. My friend Chris is on there. We're all proud of Chris. But the Alumni Association, when I look at them, I think, look at them. They're caught up in the final stage of what healing looks like, which is, I have enough, now I'm here to give back to it.
You still have to manage triggers, because triggers are going to happen. But the difference is you say, I don't identify with that anymore. That's not a part of who I am anymore. And you can quickly dismiss it. You have to get to that place where you're, like we say, you're walking into newness. And when you break past that spot, that's when you know. And one of the things I always do in counseling is the trap doors. You got to watch out for the trap doors that keep leading you back to the same place. But when you get to the place where you know, and like you said, that you may still have gotten at that van at one time and was triggered by something, but you immediately got over it and moved on to that place. So the ultimate goal is to get people walking in that freedom. You know, that's the real freedom to me of recovery. It has been for me. Is the real freedom is knowing that I'm not that person anymore. I'm walking in the freedom of who I am. And though triggers may come in situations where I can easily cast them down and recognize the value, because I can't do it for anybody else anymore. I know the value of my life, and like you said, of what I see for me. You have nothing but vision, right? So why would you waste time looking back when you see all the vision of what you've been able to do? So it is planning those good things and then seeing the outcomes of those good things. And we have that period of time where they can get a pretty decent garden going. That's one of the things the Lord did for me. I was praying, and he showed me a garden. And the garden was full of weeds. I was like, Lord, I'm a low down, dirty, disgusted. Look at ain't nothing here but weeds. And he said to me, you got to start planting good. And the good, we know the wheat and tare has to grow together. But we know once I started planting good, I couldn't even see the weeds anymore. They had minimized so much because what I was planting was right and what I was planting was good. So now when I look at that garden, it's beautiful. And that's how we want to see their lives, that they're not focusing on all the victimizing past, that they can see themselves in a different place.
One of the greatest gifts that I think we have, too, is this community-based effect. You know, when you look at everything that they get to be a part of, and like when I go to the graduation and I watch you guys over there, they've created a community within the drug treatment court.
Yes.
You know, those are their people for that time period that they're there, and oftentimes after
Yes.
that they leave the
They build
program.
friendships.
They build friendships.
They're in
and-
groups together. They're
Yep,
doing a lot of things together.
They make new connections, and one of the things that I think I'm most grateful for that we couldn't tap into this when we were a much smaller program at Christian Recovery Centers, but now seeing that we have hundreds of people a part of our ecosystem here locally. You know, if you had our team members plus our residents, it's like 300 folks.
That's a lot.
That we have inside of Brunswick County, and they're a part of this community.
Yes.
You know, they help each other
Yeah,
move.
you
You
add
know how
our-
hard it is to
Our
help
100,
someone help move?
125 in.
Yeah,
now
same
you,
thing. Like when we have the kickball tournaments to see that crowd out there together. Jeremy's folks over at Coastal Horizons come participate
Yes.
in that. There's a huge recovery community here.
Yes.
And that is what a main part of what a lot of our programs do. We have to get to that place where they're handed back off to the community.
Yes.
The community takes care of them.
You have to have that mindset for people who are against treatment and against individuals being, they really need to understand that this individual is coming back in the community and they're a citizen just like you and I. And I would rather have them in the best possible place in their stability of their recovery than not. And I always say, if you would spend some time with any individual, they're just happen to have had a bad experience with substance abuse and mental health. Yours may be something different, right? But all of us still have to live together in the same community. And many of the men and women I met are so skilled and so gifted in a lot of things they do. They just needed to get the hindrance out of their life to be able to blossom in the things that God created them to be.
Yeah.
And if we're continuing to willing to do that, they're going to see those individuals thriving in the communities like, wow, I misjudged that person.
Yeah, they're gonna they're gonna start to second guess their initial impressions.
Exactly.
Of people. And that's
So
a
we
good
tear
thing.
down stigma every day. That's
tearing
what you
down
and I do.
stigma.
We
Yep.
keep tearing down stigma and have to show mercy, understanding, and empathy when people are in their most broken moments.
Yeah.
And that's what substance abuse and mental health does. It can take you to the most broken space you'll ever be in.
Do you think? Can you recall any moments over the 2016 is a long time to be working on this? What are some of your most proud moments?
Ooh, boy. Wow. There's so many. Every time we have a graduation, I'm proud, man.
Yeah.
I'm just proud of the program that Judge Lewis had the courage to start and Judge Disbrow has the courage to continue and invest in. I'm proud to see every individual on their personal journey because it's unique to them, but seeing them in the struggle, but more importantly, seeing them in the success. And guess what? We don't help everybody because they're not ready. But even those individuals who we can help, seeing that warm handoff, even if it's to the jail, right? But that we spark something in their mind that they have the opportunity if they choose it. So just funding and everything to be able to maintain the structure that we have, I'm proud of that. Not that I did it, all of us together. And the hearts of the people in the community organizations like CRCI, in other words, that we're able to work together and continue to build. So that's always something that gives you encouragement in what you do. But a life change from a pastoral perspective is always going to be the greatest thing to me, to see the old become new. That's always going to be something internal that always stirs me.
I feel like we got something special in Brunswick County.
We do.
Like something really good. Whenever you see the sheriff's office working so closely with the court system, working so closely with community-based
Yes.
programs, it's cooking something.
Yeah. And if I may say, even if they don't fall into our program, they still have the Anchor Initiative.
They do.
And the sheriff will talk about that. So any individual, we have CRC, any individual who has a problem can get help
They can.
in this community. And that's what we set out to do, or you set out to do years ago, I set out to do, that if you're suffering, you can get help. All you got to do is, now we just make aware of where you can get to help, but you can get help if you want help.
This has been a good chat. I know our folks learned a lot more about the drug treatment courts today. I want to make sure that I reiterate how grateful we are for your entire team and the way that you guys work. Thank you for a decade worth of your hard work and sewing in to make sure this thing does what it does. I do need one more favor from you. we don't get such a good radio voice on here often.
Oh,
and you
okay.
know you got the best radio voice
I didn't know that.
I've ever seen. I just want you to sign us off and say thank you for joining us at Behind the Citgo. We'll see
Thank
you
you
next
for
time.
joining us from Behind the Citgo.
That's the best. Raymond Wood, everyone, Drug Treatment Courts Director. We'll see you next time. Appreciate it.